Tonight, we talk internship. What exactly are they? And why should anyone apply for them? We have a special cast of guests, local and international, as we discuss different internship opportunities within Sentience and how they can impact your lives professionally. Up late with Sion Marshall starts right now. It's Thursday. Uh, Thursday, the 11th of April, 2024. Welcome and thank you for staying up late with us. We have a packed show ahead of us, so we are going to jump right in. Now, at some point in our lives, in our professional career, we may have heard the term internship. Now, an internship is really a job placement or a placement where individuals go to get training and experience that acts as a bridge, as it were, from academics to professionals. So it's that bridge that would tie what you learned in university or what you learned in school or what you learned in college with what you would learn in the world of work. And many individuals have had some opportunities locally, not so many internationally. But we want to explore that idea tonight and how those internships, those opportunities can impact Vincentians. Internship opportunities at home range from the YES program, the SET program, the on-site program. You can have regional internships with different organizations, the OECS, CARICOM, and so forth. And of course, internationally, you can intern with a number of agencies, the OAS, the World Bank, the WTO, the UN. Tonight, we have uh, individuals, former interns who've done so with the UN. But before we get to those interns, we also have some interns who've done it locally on the YES program and on the on-site program. However, before we get to those guests, I want to bring in our friend Richard. You know, Richard is a part of the show. He's part of the Uplift family. So I want to bring Richard in a little bit for a few minutes to kind of lay the foundation, lay the base for what an internship is. And maybe he would give an even better definition than I did because he used to run a fantastic internship program at the UNCCD where he worked. So he would give you an even better description and definition than I did. And after chatting with Richard, we would then chat with our two local former interns here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and get their stories. So let me bring in Richard right now and say good night to Richard. Richard, good night.
Hey, good night, Cian. It's so wonderful to see you again. I'm always glad to be part of the show. I'm honored that you have me, and I think the program tonight is an important program, not only from the standpoint of it, information that you intend to share, but the practicality of it for young people and future professionals. So I'm really happy to be a part of it.
All right. Let's jump right into it, Richard. What is an internship? And then who would you then define as an intern?
Right. Well, basically, if you allow me, I'd like to deal with it from a practical standpoint, from a real standpoint, rather than from a dictionary definition of the term. An
Right.
intern is basically a person who finds a temporary job placement, right? And within that placement, it is intended to prepare him for his professional life. Usually, it is a person who have had an academic career before in one way or the other. In other words, he or she was at the university, he or she was at a training college of some sort or the other. But now he, as you said earlier, he's moving now from the world of academic training to the world of professional work. But there's a bridge because you don't just be regardless of the university and immediately you're a professional. No, professional life is something else. It is where you learn not just things relating to your academic capacity and your relation to books and so on, but your relation to people and to what is called a workplace. Now, an internship is that bridge, which once you have left the academic world, so to speak, you now have to work with people and work within a working environment, right? An internship helps you to prepare for that. That's really what an internship is all about.
So, as someone who ran an internship program, you were the head, the lead, top person in the capacity building and innovation division at the UNCCD. What goes into an internship program? What exactly are the preparations that you would make, and what do you expect or anticipate that both the UNCCD, your former department, and the intern would get from that internship?
Very good. There are two sides to it. There is the intern, right? And there's the organization and the people who that intern work with. And both have their roles to play. Okay. The intern, first and foremost, comes to learn new skills, okay, and learn how to work, in a workplace. Those who are mentoring the interns, those who are training the interns, are supposed to impart skills to that person, right? Now, internships are very different. They're different in what you intend to learn. They're different in terms of length. They're different in terms of the culture. They're different. Okay. Now, if we want to talk about the UNCCD and about what I did at the United Nations, right? It is called an internship. It was not a UNCCD ship. It was not a UN ship. It was not a Richard Byron Cox ship. It was an internship. What does that mean for me? It meant that the intern came first and foremost. And I was involved. I always said that to my interns. My job is not to teach you technical skills. I have my staff that teaches you that. My job is to do something else, right? And I saw my job as trying to make you a person who understands that you have to become holistic as a professional. In other words, this is a mission on something called self mastery. You mastering yourself as a professional, but it's only the first step. Okay. So that's the first thing. I'm concerned with the holistic development of the individual. I'm not just concerned with teaching you some technical skill or telling you facts that you can find in Google in 10 seconds. Okay. No, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in creating that person who can now interface with the workplace and the people you have to work with. So the first thing for me is the overall development of the person. That comes first. Now, as I said, it is about self mastery in terms of being a professional. So what does this entail? See, and this entails some very important things. And I know we have limited time, so I'll list them. I'll list a couple of them. Firstly, you have to learn to deal with people. Okay, you're now working not with books and not with your teachers, who you have to listen to and take instruction from, etc., etc. It is more than that. You are now not just taking in, but you're being taught to contribute. Okay, to whatever that process is, whether it's an industrial process, whether you're being an intern as a teacher to become a teacher, you are a professional teacher, you're trained as a teacher, and you remember that you went to a period of what was called practice teaching, right?
Yes,
In
yes.
actuality, it wasn't internships yet.
Inter-
You understand? In actuality, it was an internship. Okay. And it was now teaching you how to move from being the academic teacher who had learned at the teacher's college and how to actually teach children. Okay. In the college, who were you dealing with? You were not really dealing with children, were you now? You're dealing with your professors, your lecturers, and your other colleagues as students, right? Right. But this was preparing you not to deal just with them. It was preparing you to deal with what? With children, with a school,
Students.
with a head teacher, and so on. So that's one of the first things that an internship is supposed to teach you: how to deal with people, how to handle people, right? Secondly, when you go into an internship, as I said, there are different internships, and you must remember that I was involved in an internship at the United Nations level. In other words, the whole world. Okay, I had interns, sorry, from around the world. And when you're dealing with that, the first thing you have to understand as a person in charge of that is that you are what? An example. You're actually a teacher To teach means to show, to guide, to encourage, to help, okay? To be an example too, okay? But the intern must come, he or she must come with an understanding. Listen to me. I am here because they can impart something to me which the university couldn't, okay? Which the academic school I went to couldn't. But it's beyond that. They're not teaching me now how to pass an exam. What are the things I need to pass an exam? No, they're preparing me for what? A professional life. An exam that I will have each and every single day. You understand? For the rest of my life.
Mm.
That's the
Now,
difference, you
Richard,
know.
no, I have my guests who I'm going to bring in, and I want you to come back. You're going to come back at the end of the program, and we're going to tie this all up. But in my introduction, I mentioned Yes program, I mentioned the set program, I mentioned the on-site program. Was I correct in characterizing those as internship programs?
Yes, you are. Because, firstly, we know three things about these, and you know them very well. Firstly, they're temporary. Isn't that so? That's the first thing. Secondly, they're geared to prepare you for something further. Isn't that true? That's
That's correct.
absolutely true. And thirdly, you were not paid as a professional. In most cases, you were given a stipend.
Yes.
Okay? Those are three fundamental differences from, say, your a professional job where you're given a position, okay? Sometimes it's permanent and so on and so forth, and you have a salary. Okay? This is not the case. But outside of that, those programs are specifically geared. The objective is not for you to stay there. You understand what I'm saying? Not for you to always be at the set program or the on-site program forever. That is not the case at all. The understanding is what? We're preparing you for somewhere else, to take you somewhere else. Okay?
Okay.
So those are truly internship programs. The difference here between those and say at the UN level, we are looking at the whole world. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is looking at Vincentians. Have you heard that in the set program, people come from Australia and so on to be part of it? Have you heard that the on-site program will bring people from I don't know Germany to be part of it? No, sir. We are interested specifically in the development of the young human resource of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's the second important thing that you need to differentiate that from, say, an international thing. Thirdly, we because of the nature of those things, the qualifications are different. Okay? At the United Nations, for example, in most cases, we might ask you for a second language, for example, right? So those things are different. Now, there's something I need to say to you, Sian. This is very, very important. Um, if you recall, I said an internship is that first step to something called self mastery as a professional,
Yes.
right? And you might have noticed that I said that you have to learn to deal with people. But you know what you have to learn to deal with, CN? Yourself. You have to learn to discover yourself and how you need to act as a professional. As a student, sometimes you can throw a tantrum and you can misbehave, you know what I mean? And people see that as what? You're young, you're immature. You understand what I'm saying? And you can be easily forgiven. As a professional, this is not the case. You have got to learn to develop what is usually called these days soft skills. Okay, that's the term a lot of people use in dealing with this. So the long and short of this is this: that an internship is process a process which moves you from an academic career and helping to make you into the professional that you are going to be. You're not the professional yet. It is the professional that you are going to be. That is that bridge.
All right. It's interesting that you said the long and short of it because you chose to give me the long and not the short. But that's all right. Come back. You'll come back towards the end and we'll wrap it up. But I'm going to introduce my guests now, my local guests. So Richard, we'll see you a little later in the program. All right.
It was nice being here. Thank you so
All
much.
right. All right. So, as promised, I have two individuals who are former interns, and their stories are different. As they are different, their stories are different. Their experiences are different. And tonight, they're up late and they're going to tell you about their stories. Let's welcome Shelley Joseph and Dimitri Roberts. Shelley, Dimitri, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Marshall. Good evening, Mr. Marshall.
Well, Dimitri, listen, you could call me Sian, and Shelly, you could call me Sian too. So I know where this Mr. Marshall thing come from. But Dimitri, you've been trending lately. You're a superstar. Yeah. And I saw your story on Facebook posted by the Minister of Finance who was at the some event for the new cohorts of the on-site program interns, and your story caught my attention. So tell me, before we get into your full story, tell me a little about yourself. Who is Dimitri Roberts?
Well, as I've been saying, I could only tell a little bit because if I have to tell everything, I would need a reality show.
Okay. So don't do
A
like
little,
Richard. Don't give me the long. Give me the short.
no, no, no. Short, the short and the sweetest is that I'm just someone who wants to be more than just an ordinary servant, and that's the short right there.
You are being you're being your story experience goes that you used to be a part-time conductor. You then went on to the on-site program, and that worked out fantastic for you. Now, first of all, before I jump in to that story, what inspired you, first of all, to apply to the on-site program?
It's all about me being a person liking to try new things and grasping opportunities. I saw it as a golden opportunity, and everyone likes gold. So I reached out for gold. Simple.
Simple as that. All right, Shelly. Good evening. Now
Good
you're
evening.
like my little brother. All right, and so I'm very familiar with this story, but I think that your story is such a fantastic and phenomenal story. Give us a little insight about the early years of Shelley, and where Shelley came from up to the point of the internship, the yes internship.
Okay, so coming out of secondary school with a few subjects, I went to the Bethel High School.
I wanted to even go back before secondary school because I think it's important that we get the pre-secondary school thing too.
Right, coming all the way from France, right? Yeah, so I attended the fancy government school, and I think that was the last year of school events, right? I started secondary school at Form 3. No, Form 3.
So
Yes,
you wrote school leavings. You didn't get to secondary school through common entrance. You got to secondary school through school events.
yes, I
Right.
started Form 3. Actually, when I enrolled in school and we had orientation and my name was called and I heard Form 3 room 11. I was like, Form 3 room 11? Okay. Yeah, and that was correct. Form 3 room 11. So coming out of primary school in Fancy, starting Camden Park Secondary School, I left Camden Park Secondary School with a few subjects and I went to work in the Grenadines. I spent a year in the Grenadines. From there, I came up, I did some barbering. I did sales with insurance. And then there was the opportunity for coordinator for North Windward, right? And I took advantage of that opportunity, right?
So this was coordinator for the yes program for North Windward.
Yes,
All right.
on the yes
Now,
program.
no, so your internship was the yes program. Dimitri's internship was the on-site program. Dimitri, the on-site program, unlike the other programs, pairs you with private sector agencies. What area of the private sector did you choose to go into, or were you accepted in as an intern, and why? Why do you think that was the case?
I was accepted into the insurance sector. That was my choice, and I got through by the grace of God because I had taken up a spot that someone had left in pursuit to be a nurse. So I filled in the position for that person.
So yeah, I'm not sure if you know Dimitri, but the person who's being interviewed next to you is a nurse, eh? But that's another story. But I'm sure it wasn't him. I'm sure it wasn't him who left.
So it wasn't. It was definitely a failure.
Okay, okay. So you went into insurance. What was the on-site? Now, before you even go there, had you done anything quote unquote work related or formal before that experience?
No, nothing formal. I consider formal to be long sleeve and tie. So
Okay,
nothing formal.
okay. So this was your first time, and how was it different? What was your experience like going into that environment?
It was it was two complete opposites. Because imagine changing from short cut up jeans to well pressed out long pants with heels. You know what I mean? It's just a whole different thing. You gotta focus more on everything pertaining to yourself and the upliftment other than money. So it was is very was very life changing for me.
You mentioned short cut up jeans. So am I correct in assuming that apart from also the change or the difference, the shift in attire, it also required a shift in attitude, in the way you spoke, in the way you related to people, um,
Yep,
that now more was required of you?
yep, because now I had to leave speaking like a normal get to youth and putting my diction in use now because I'm dealing with other professionals. So that's what I have to do. I can't be the same not good enough me that I was. No. So I have to change whether I like it or not.
Shelly, you started on the Yes program. Now, first of all, what was your experience like? Because you're on the Yes program. It's a full time task. You're coordinating all of Northwind, which would be from Fancy to I think Mount Bentic Bay Road.
Dixon.
Um, and there was a stipend paid for you, which wasn't a whole lot because what a stipend is like for Yes program. I mean the coordinators. How much of a challenge was it functioning in a full time role, even though it's an internship and but most people treat it like a job, knowing that what the quote unquote pay was at the end of the day wasn't what a full time job would get, but you're still required to go out and be a full time employee. How challenging was that?
Well, the financial aspect of it, you along with your um, time management, right? You get to schedule your time according to where you want to go. So that way you can manage your monies, right? You can manage your stipend, manage your time, and you would be okay. The challenge comes when you want to get to a certain place on time and there's no transportation, or you might have to walk or keep a ride or pay something extra.
Mm, mm. How long did you spend on the Yes program in this position?
Um, okay, yes.
You can remember.
I can't remember. Honestly. But I
Mm.
spent a couple of years on being coordinator.
Now, Richard at the beginning of the show, and I know you heard him talked about self mastery and developing yourself, and you said you left school with a few subjects, um, and I guess a few. I don't know how much a few is. You could explain, but what happened during that time of the internship where the focus was on you and self mastery? Uh, um, what were you able to do apart from developing the skills that you talked about, the time management and so on, what else were some of the accomplishments that you achieved that what you were able to use to transition to your new career?
Right. The first one was discipline because of, well, I attended some evening classes, adult and continued offered classes, and those run from about 4 to 7. Right now, you must have discipline when you attending these classes here, and especially coming where I'm coming from, fancy Sandy Bay. When class is done, no transportation. So for some people, it wasn't easy. I can't make it, but I had to be disciplined to make it happen for me. Right? I would have attended 3 different classes, right? 3 different subject areas, and those are on different days, right? So you would find like those days I would get home late. Sometimes I walk from Sunday to Fancy, and the next day I might have to do the same thing again. If I wasn't disciplined, I probably would have given up early. Yeah. But however, though, it was all worth it. You know, um, while being the coordinator, attending classes, you also get to, you meet different people, and they, because they're coming from different walks of life, you also would have to adjust to, accommodate, the way they grew up, and try to help them work on themselves as well, while you're working on yourself as well. And that in itself was, I think that was part of the reason why I'm kind of who I am, because I am today.
Mm. Dimitri, let's get back to you a bit and we talk about your on-site experience. Uh, so how long did you spend on the program in on the internship?
I spent between it was 6 to 9 months, between 6 and 9 months.
Okay. And what was that like? What were some of the things that you picked up along the way, you learned along the way that you are able to use going forward?
The importance of a good image, the importance of being respectful, and the most important thing for me was the exposure as a young man. Because a lot of us as young people want to be great, but we just don't know how. I mean, it's like if you've never been to a pastor, how would you know about Jesus Christ? If you get where I'm coming from.
Right. 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 Now, for both of you, and any one of you could answer, both of you can answer. Did you have any real mentorship and hand holding during that program? Um, Whether it is Dimitri, you, somebody on the job who, whenever you feel a little down or you feel like giving up or you have a little trouble, they'll be the first one to come and put their hand on your shoulder and say, "Look, this is how we do it. Don't give it up. Don't give up." And so on. Shelly, as well, you and how important was that mentoring in your internship program in your internship program? Yes.
You know, I had to laugh, right? Because I'm here with my mentor. you know,
I was not on the yes program though. I was not. I was not on the yes
you know,
program.
whenever there's a situation, I used to always be the first person I would call. You know, as much as you weren't part of the Ministry of National Mobilization, Youth Affairs, whenever I have a problem, you're the first person I used to call. While Well, even and stretch it to even now, you know. Yeah, so and you know, I I would have said to you before, and I would say it again. I appreciate the fact that I could have called on you anytime, any situation.
Appreciate that, Shelley. Dimitri, what about your own experiences being mentored, and how did that impact your whole experience as an intern?
My person like that was Kitwana Jacob. Well, we were somewhat opposite when we just met. Me being the informal and him being the formal. So what I did was swallow all the formalities and now I'm regurgitating it.
And that shows growth because that's exactly how it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
So what is next for you, Dimitri? Where do you go from here? From what I heard, at the end of the internship, you were kept on as a full-time employee. Tell us about that.
Well, right now I am currently in training to be a financial advisor for Sagico. My Kitwana Jacob is and was that, but when he has promoted himself beyond the stage of just being a financial advisor to having his own company. So he is 2 steps ahead while I want to be where he was.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
He's a
Don't don't don't
stepping.
tell him don't tell him I said this about Stefan from Kevin Rodriguez. Eh? He's a clown. He's a clown. Okay. That's my good friend. That's my good friend. I just said that's my good friend. I just put it at Kevin. All of us
I
are
think
legal boys.
I just went there for the past 10 seconds.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
Went there.
But listen, I really wish you all the best. And I was really inspired by your story that someone in your circumstances, in your situation, and like you said, and I'm glad you put it that way, that you wanted to improve. You want to be great. You want to be more than just an ordinary servant, and you saw an opportunity that can take you along a path that would help you to achieve that, and you jumped for it into something that was very new. And I must congratulate you for doing that. Shelley, what about you? You left school even a few subjects, but you went on the internship program, the S program. You got a few more subjects. Improve yourself. What's happening now?
Well, currently I'm a staff nurse at the Milton Keaton Memorial Hospital. Right. I remember saying one day, I think I'm gonna do nursing. And that's when I did human and social biology as one of the subjects that I attended at the evening classes. And I passed on the first sitting, so I applied and I got through. Here I am today.
Fantastic. And just as I just for those of you who are watching and you heard me mention it on one of the programs, my good friend whose back was turned on the patient who was shot in the hospital, that's him right there. That's him right there. So that was I was so concerned, and I had to mention it on the program because this is like my little brother, and I could have gotten a call to say he was shot. Shelly, Dimitri, guys, you guys were amazing on this evening's program. I trust that your stories inspire somebody who's watching, who's listening. You, Dimitri, went from a part-time conductor in cut up jeans to now you're being trained as a financial advisor. That's an amazing story in any part of the world, any day of the week, sun or rain. And Shelley, from school evenings to evening classes, and now to a registered nurse taking care of the sick. That also is amazing. Is an amazing story, guys. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for sharing your story with the listeners. I really appreciate it, and I wish you guys all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. All right. Let me thank the guys again for sharing their amazing stories. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we take the discussion to another level and we chat with two interns who have done this on the international level when we come back on a plate with Sion Marshall. As promised in the last segment, we have two very special guests with us this evening, staying up late, who have had their own experiences as interns at international organizations. This evening, two females, one of them who I am personally familiar with, and another who is as a courtesy of Richard, our friend on the show. They're here with us and they are going to speak to us a little bit about their own experience as interns, what it was like, what they gained, and maybe even what prompted them to be interns in the first place. This evening we have uh, Maria and Dia joining us. Let's say good evening to Maria and Dia. Good evening, ladies.
Good
Good
evening.
evening,
How are you?
I'm well. I'm well.
and I'm
Uh,
well as well. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Dia. Thank you so much for joining. Now, I think as starters, we can let our audience know that we are in different, well, on different continents and possibly different time zones, right? Because I'm hosting and I am in the UK. Dia, you are?
I just landed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines maybe about 2 hours ago.
Well, welcome home. At least you're there more recently than me. If you go to Sandals before me, we'll have a problem. Please, just don't go yet.
I'll send you pictures.
Thank you. I'll appreciate that. And Maria,
I am in Tunisia right now.
Maria is in Tunisia. Now, fortunately
Yes.
for Maria and I, we have the same time zone, so it's not that bad. Welcome to the program, ladies. So let's get straight to it. The idea of internship. What's spurred that desire first and foremost for both of you to apply for an internship? What was the idea behind it?
Okay, I will start.
So,
So,
sorry.
in my degree program at university, I completed my master's in international trade policy at the UWI Cave Hill campus. And well, let me just backtrack a little bit. In my undergrad, I did political science with a minor in law. And I was trying to figure out where I would like to go career wise, what I would like to do, whether I would lean more legally, international development, etc. And I landed on the program at the UWI Cave Hill, the MITP program, Masters in International Trade Policy. A part of that program calls for an internship. I actually completed two at that time. We had to do a 3 month internship as part of our graduation package. So I interned firstly at the UNDP office in Barbados, and then secondly at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So coupling the knowledge that I learned in the master's program and my internships, especially the one at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade in the International Trade Division, I was exposed more to the world of trade, which I fell more in love with. And I started there, I think, in 2014. That's when I graduated. And in 2017, the WTO, which is the organization, the Mecca for World Trade, the Mecca for Launch World Trade, they launched an internship program calling for persons from underrepresented member states and unrepresented member states to get a feel for international trade at the WTO. So working there and finding out how things go. So that is what spurred me trying to, now that I had worked in the ministry and I learned how trade works from a national standpoint, I wanted to see it from the international organization standpoint. So that's how I got there.
All right. Maria, what was your experience like? What was your driving
Wow.
force?
So my experience was I was at that time I did my bachelor's degree in international relations, and then I was doing a master's degree in governance and international development in France, and I was also very interested to get to know more about what I would like to do later. And I was really interested in development and sustainable development in general. So I saw an internship with the UNCCD in the Capacity Development and Innovation Office, which is based in Bonn. And I saw the opportunity, and that's how I kind of landed. I wanted to get to know also more the UN system, and I think like doing an internship in the UNCC was really useful for me, and also to guide my career path later. And then it was really also related with my studies, and yeah, that's how I landed there.
Now, I did an
Yes.
injustice to both of you and also to our viewers because I jumped right into the discussion and didn't ask for any background as to, a little bit about yourselves. Uh, um,
Yeah.
so maybe now is as good time as any to do that a bit of introduction, which I should have done first. But Maria, tell us a little bit about who Maria is, where you're from, and so forth.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I should have introduced myself before. So I am from Spain. I'm 26 years old. So I told you before, I did my bachelor's degree in international relations, and then a master's degree in governance and international development. And before my internship with the UNCD, I had already a couple of experiences with different NGOs, but I never had a experience within the UN. And right now I am working in Tunisia. I am working for the Spanish Agency for International Development Cooperation here, and that's a little bit of an introduction of myself.
Okay. And Dia, for the listeners, share a little bit about yourself. I wouldn't let them know that you were actually a student at one of the schools I taught. Not that I taught you, but that's how far back you go. And I believe my mother also taught you at preschool. But even though I would not let you share, I would let you share for yourself a little bit about Dia.
Yes, so I'm Dear James, and as I stated previously, I did an undergrad in political science with a minor in law and then a master's in international trade policy. And for about 10 years now, I've been working in international trade at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. And within the last 3 years, I've transitioned to working in St. Vincent and the Grenadines' embassy in Washington, D.C. to the U.S. But trade is my love. That's my training. That's my background. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Now, both of you ladies are extremely qualified. You pursued undergraduate study, you pursued postgraduate study. How big of a gap was there between your academic studies when you got into the world of internships? So here you are, you've done your bachelor's and your master's. Now you're going into an internship. Dear, you're going to the UNDP. Uh, Maria, you're going to different agencies, even at Bonn. How was it different? Were you prepared for what the world of work was like now that you had graduated with your postgraduate degree?
Yeah,
Maria, we
that's
start with
that's a
you.
very interesting question, actually. Can I start?
Yes, yes, please. We start with you, Maria. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very interesting question because I have the feeling when you're studying, everything is really theoretical, and then when you have to work, it is difficult. And I have to say that for me, it's really important when you're doing an internship to really, because for me it's like it's both sides. It's like an educational, but also like a work experience. So you need to have both, and you need to be mentored, you need to be trained. And when you land to an internship, I think like at first can be a bit challenging because I don't know, I remember I had some like practical subjects during my master's degree, but it was only one, and I was not. maybe at first like that prepare or like that with that like self confidence to work. um and then yeah, like I would say like at first it's a bit challenging when you start. And I was really lucky to have like very good mentor and colleagues that helped me during the process.
All right, great. Dia, what about you? I mean, you are political science and law. You're a big shot in international trade policy, and boom, you get to UNDP, you get to an internship. What was it like? Was there a rude awakening?
There was, and there was a bit of a confusion, and similar to what Maria says, you when you're in school, you have the practical knowledge. Because I remember even when I was trying to find an internship to do at the end of my master's program before I landed on UNDP, when I was trying to figure out, okay, where do I want to go? Where do I want to do the internship, and why? And I remember I said, okay, I want to be in international development, but where in international development? Because that field is so broad. And then I started like researching different agencies. And well, my master's program was done in Barbados, where the UN has a few of its agencies there. So it was easy to look at those ones to see, okay, which one would be the best fit. So I did that. I was better prepared when I went to do the World Trade Organization internship, because by then I had a few years in the ministry working on practical things, doing the work. So when I went to the WTO, I was now taking the knowledge gained from already doing work in trade and working on trade as a job, and now utilizing that to help me through the internship. It was still a bit challenging because now I had to look at it not from the member state point of view, which I was working on because I was working in the Ministry of Trade at St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So everything I was looking at trade was from the perspective of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In the organization now, you are representing all member states. So you have to look at the large countries and all of those. So I had to now shift my perspective. So I gained a wider knowledge from that.
Uh, Maria, in terms of access, you're from Spain. Uh, it's a bit of a broad question, but do you think countries like Spain, part of the EU, and other developed countries, their students, their graduates are better placed to access some of these opportunities in internship?
Regarding internships, I'm not that sure, but I know like for like junior positions, it is it can be, yeah, it can be maybe easier like if your country is given like if your country funds some positions, which is would happen in the UN. So I think, yeah, I think that like that side, yeah, you have like maybe like more chances, of course, if your country is funding, or like if your country is like, yeah, funding like some programs, some internships. In my case, in Spain, I don't think Spain funds like internships with the UN.
Okay. Dear,
Yeah.
you're from St. Vincent. You are probably one of three or four individuals I've known to have interned at international organization. How does that, from your perspective? I mean, I know you only did the WTO and so on, but do you think there is equal access or at least enough access and opportunities for developing countries, small island development states like St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to access some of these opportunities for our graduates?
I'll start by saying no, because I find especially when I went to WTO, I saw that where WTO is housed in Geneva, in Switzerland, in Europe, and majority WTO has several internship programs, and majority of those internships are taken by easy. the Europeans, it is easier for them because it's closer to home, because sometimes these internships are not paid, especially within the UN
Yeah.
system. WTO does pay their interns, but it's not a large salary. And then you have to look at the expensive cost of living, because Geneva is expensive. And a lot of these cities that the
Yeah.
UN and other international
Absolutely.
organizations are housed is expensive. And then when
They
you
make them
come
expensive.
yes, and then when you come
Really.
from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where you're not going dollar for dollar, it's easier for a European country to come to another European country, because €1 is €1 in that
Yeah.
country. So that is a turn off, because and then a number of these internships, they will tell you airfare is not covered. You have to do that on your own, etc. WTO, I find, and even recently I've seen a few other internships popping up. The one that I was on, the Young Professionals Program specifically, that was created targeting member states of the WTO who are underrepresented or not represented at all. So it kind of give an edge to us, small island states, etc. So that
Okay.
was good. The thing with
Mhm.
it, I do not think when it just started, it was as advertised. So you had to do a bit more promotion, because when I went, it was the second cohort. I believe now that it has gotten some traction. It recently closed, I think, the last end of month for the upcoming cohort. So it is always advertised. And but the thing is, I think it's mainly advertised through the vacancy notice, so you'll have to check their website. Um, so I think we are at a disadvantage because we are not exposed to a number of these internships that are advertised, and also the criteria for some of them where you have to fund your travel, etc. It puts us
Yeah.
out. So
A bit of probative.
that's a big thing. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Maria, earlier when we were discussing, you referred to mentorship.
Yeah.
How important was mentorship as part of your internship, and what were some of the other areas that you believe the internship helped you in your growth and in your development?
Yeah. So I will say, like, when I was talking about mentorship, for me, like, to be mentor and what I have experienced is like, at first, like, everything is new for you, so it is normal, like, they, like, in my case, like, so like, they give you, like, gradually more responsibilities, which also, like, helps a lot, and they train you, like, for me, like, it means, like, they give you feedback. It's like you are working, but there's always someone you can ask something, or like there's always your mentor who can give you support. And for me, it's really important, because that's how also you grow up professionally, and how you learn. If you don't have anybody who is there for you, like, to tell you if you're, like, doing good or like it, I think that's very important. And other areas I have grew professionally during my internship. I will say that um, they gave me, like, competencies that I use later for other work experiences. Like, for example, like working in teams, or like working with a multicultural team. Also, I will say, like, a culture in work, which is based, like, in helping others, inspiring others, trying to give you, like, trying to give the best of yourself, and also try to get the best of others. It was the whole culture that I have later, that I have also, like, gained, and I have, like, later, put in practice in other experiences.
Follow up on that, Dia. You're from the Caribbean, a very conservative area. What was it like going to Geneva, Western Europe, which is a lot more liberal, a lot more open? Uh, Following up on what Maria talked about, multiculturalism, working with people from Europe, from Africa, and so forth. What was that like for you?
I really enjoyed it. I think even though I'm an introvert or a bit shy in some areas, I think I thrive in environments like that. I like to learn from other people and like to experience other cultures. So that was really good. So at the WT, I was on supervision. And I had two supervisors. One was from Bangladesh, and the other one was Venezuelan. So you had that as well. And then I was the only person there from the Caribbean who was on the team at the time. So they would ask me questions, and I liked it because, well, they had more experience than me, but they also asked my opinion. So when we would talk about things that we would like to develop, they would ask about, okay, so what would be the Caribbean's perspective? And I love that. So I think that's one of the things I like about my era is that I am able to champion for the Caribbean and for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And for example, while I was there, the WTO was starting to do work on trade and natural disasters. And for us, that's a big thing in this area. Climate change, hurricanes,
Mhm.
etc. So they were looking at how trade can help in the event of natural disasters, with people getting back on their countries getting back on their feet and those kind of things. And when they were looking at coming to gather information from member states, I was able to share on perspectives and experiences of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So it's good, as Maria was saying, about having mentors, because they were able to teach me a lot, and I was able to pull from my experiences. So it wasn't as challenging as I thought it would have been. And it was really good. And as Maria was saying, working in multicultural teams, excellent.
Mhm.
Encourage everybody
Okay.
to have that experience.
And I like that. Now, finally, ladies, I won't keep you much longer, but I want each of you to give me the high point or the best takeaway and the low point, because life generally throws you both high points and low points. So if you were to uh, talk about the high point of your internship experience and maybe a low point or something that you wish you could have done differently, what would that be, or what would they be? We start with you, dear.
Okay, high point, the experience on a whole. I will not change applying for that program and going out for that program. Going there, experiencing it, everything. The low point is that I think at the time, even though I was working already, I and back then I was younger, um, I did not know a lot about networking as I know now. And I wish that I would have networked more, because another benefit of these programs is networking, because then these are the people, especially if you stay in this field, these are people you get to see in years to come at different meetings,
Mhm. Yeah.
etc. So I wish I had networked more, but I learned from that. And I think so that would be the low, but the high, everything else.
Okay, Maria.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
would your experiences be, Maria? What would you say your high point would be? What would you say your low point was, Maria?
So my high point, I would say, is like the whole experience you get working with people with people from different backgrounds and different countries. That's really a high point, and also it helps you to excel your CV, to highlight your CV, which is really good. And then like low point, um, I will say, in general of internships in this area, which is highly competitive. Because I did like several internships, and I was also in Geneva. I did not mention, but I was in the Spanish permanent representation of Spain to the UN. So maybe we were in the same year. I don't know. I was in 2019, and And yeah, I totally agree with the networking because that was my first experience in Geneva. And I was also like, I did not, I was not, I was really young and I was not conscious of the importance of connecting with people and yeah, networking. That's really important. And and yeah, low point, I will say, yeah, that when you have like done like various internships and sometimes it's difficult to get like a real job which can be like frustrating and and yeah that will say but yeah that's like something I think like happens also like in this very competitive field and yeah also internships that are not like paid. I think that's also a very low point, and I totally agree with what you say there in Geneva, which is so expensive, and you're not only like um, not giving like opportunities to people who cannot like from like other countries and like that you know that are actually very far away from Geneva. So yeah, that's also I think like an important low point,
Okay.
I must say.
I know I said finally, but I have to do this parting one. Uh, how much influence, how much impact would you say those internships have had on your careers now as young professionals or as mid-level professionals? Anybody could start.
Okay, before I answer that, just coming in on Maria. So I was there in 2018, so we just missed each other. And before I
Wow.
jump into answering the question, another thing that's very important is learning a foreign language because you're there meeting a lot of persons and like for WT and a lot of these international organizations, they have several languages. My French is okay. And there I was able to practice a little bit more. But having left there and not being in the situation, I've kind of lost it. But I'm trying to pick that up. And even being in the embassy currently at DC, and working in with the permanent mission of with the OAS, and that has Spanish speakers. So then you have that as well. So the benefits, that was the question, the benefits
Yes,
for our
yes.
career. Yes. So since leaving there, I think that it has helped. So when I came back to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, I got to understand how to do my work better because now I had seen it both from St. Vincent's point of view and also from the WTO's point of view. I understood better how the other member states think. So St. Vincent is grouped as a developing country, and we are also members of smaller groups with SAIDs, etc. And now I understood how the larger developing countries were thinking. China, for example, and other countries, and also developed countries like the US and Canada, how they looked at trade policy and what they were thinking. So it helped me to better develop policy at work going forward. So I understood that. And coming out from that now, even transitioning into the embassy and working with member states again or interacting with other governments, I had that experience already. So I knew how to transition. The transition was easier.
Okay, fantastic. Maria, we'll close with you.
So yeah, so with the benefits, I also agree with the like in my case while I was in Geneva, I was focused in the human rights. So I was in Geneva. It gave me like the general overview of how how countries and how member states are doing for human rights. So it's very enriching. And yeah, I would say like working in a UN agency is really and it's a enriching experience because you get to know to like a lot of people from, as I said, from different countries, and it's just yeah like very exciting also like to work for something that is meaningful and something that creates a good impact for people. and that's really fulfilling.
Fantastic. Ladies, dear Maria, thank you so much. I know I can have this I should have booked you ladies for the entire program, but
Mm,
I thank you so much for the time that you've given
yeah,
to this program. I really
and I
appreciate
think,
the
yeah, I
discussion
don't
that
know.
we've had,
That's,
and no doubt
yeah.
our viewers appreciate as well. So thank you very much for being a part of this evening's program, and have yourself a good evening.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. And nice meeting you again, Maria.
All right.
Thank
All right. So that was Dia and Maria, who were part of our program. Where are we? Dia and Maria, who were part of the evening program, and share their insights. And I hope some of the graduates that we have, um, master students and so forth, heard what they were talking about and understand how big of an impact the internship had on them. Now, let's bring back Richard to the program, because, at the beginning, he was there to set the base of this, and I'm sure he has been following the program. So let's bring him back in now so we can wrap up and kind of pull together all of these ideas that we heard from Dia and from his own former intern, uh, Maria Olias. Richard, you heard all of that, and one of the things that jump out very very clearly to me was the issue of access for smaller island states like ours, and as Dia pointed out, uh, the need for a second language if you really are to thrive in the international system generally. Let's pull this together, Richard. A Vincentian individual who has done international trade or international relations at the master's level, one, do you encourage them? Would you encourage them to apply for an internship? One, and what are some of the things that they need to look for to consider when making that application?
Good. Yes, it's good to be back, and it was good listening to the experiences from the standpoint of the interns. Now, this is a very, very good question. What really it is that makes you suitable? In other words, that makes you qualified to be an intern. And this is a question that I think a lot of people in the Caribbean and in the third world need to truly understand clearly. Now, first and foremost, a lot of young people believe, oh, I have a master's degree, so I've made it, and it's wonderful, they're going to accept me. Oh, no, 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 no. Everybody has master's degrees. That is the first thing we ask for. If you don't have it, you can't apply. So it's only one thing that allows you to apply, but you have to go way beyond that if you want to be suitable. In other words, to be qualified to be accepted as an intern. And I'm going to mention some very elementary thing and rather quickly, but I hope that Sian, that you would replay this program so that young people across the Caribbean, not just in Vincent, and probably in other parts of the world would listen to this because it's important. As you know, I ran a very successful, Maria was my intern, one of my interns. I ran an extremely successful internship program at the UN. First and foremost, when you want to become an intern, please write a proper application. You understand? Take this thing seriously. That's the first thing we see. We're not concerned with your masters, because everybody else have that. That's what we ask for first and foremost. You cannot apply without it. So write a proper application. And what does a proper application look like? You understand? Well, first and foremost, you have to state why you want this internship. Secondly, how you're qualified for it. Okay. Thirdly, what you bring to it. Fourthly, what you want to learn from it. And fifthly, what is the advantage you give? Why should I take you rather than Cian Marshall? Why should I take you rather than Sarah Marshall? You understand what I'm saying? These are things which are important. And all of that has got to be succinct. It has to be short, precise, okay, and clear. And I can assure you that you would, Maria, you answered a very pertinent question as regards people from the third world, small island states, and so on. And one of the things that happens is that people don't take this seriously. And so they write an application, and the moment you begin to read it, you throw it away because you realize they're not serious. That's the first thing. You write a proper application, okay? Secondly, you have to state what is the specific advantage you see from this internship for what you are going to do. In other words, how do you see us contributing to you? If you can't tell us that, okay, then we don't see a reason to have you as an intern. Thirdly, your attitude. You see, attitude, Cian, that is crucial. You have to be willing to learn. Okay, you are an intern. You're not the professional. Okay, and if you know it all, then please don't come to my office because I have nothing to teach you. Okay, so you have to have the proper attitude. You have to be prepared to learn. Okay, fourthly, relevance, in terms of your references. Some people, because I'm Dr. Richard Byron Cox, I'm Professor Richard Byron Cox, they put my name, as a reference. Now, when the people call me to ask me about you, I can't say anything about you. You're just using a rock star in the international, I'm not a rock star, but generally, you know what I mean, as a reference. But that reference can't say anything about you. Okay? So your references must be good references. People who have taught you, or people who you worked with, or people who know you, right? Fifthly, research, please, what you apply for. If you apply for capacity building, please, for God's sake, know what capacity building means, okay? And if you're applying for capacity building on CN's program, know what CN's program is about. Because even if I give you an interview, I say, okay, this looks like a good candidate. You understand what I'm saying? And then I said, okay, so you apply for a capacity building internship. Could you please tell me what you understand that to mean? Okay? And you can't tell me. Jesus, you had all the time to research this thing. So do your research. Maria mentioned something, both of them mentioned something called competition. You see, at the international level, don't believe because you have your master's degree and so on and so forth that you're going to get it. Oh, no. It doesn't. This is a very, very competitive thing, especially at the United Nations, because the United Nations is the most prestigious international organization on the face of this earth. We have the choice and the chance to choose from the best in the world. And so you have got to understand that I'm in competition from not just from people from the Caribbean, St. Vincent, and so on, or from the Americas, or from the third world. I'm in competition with the rest of the world. Maria is only 23 years old, and she came to me when she was 21. She already had a master's degree. You understand what I'm saying?
Question, Richard. I mean, I know you're going on and you have this thing written down, but one of the things I want to do as we wrap up, because we have a few more minutes left, and I try not to make this program more than an hour, is this. Because we're talking about international internship, but earlier we talked about the local internships, the YES program, the on-site program, the SET program. How do you see them being different? And is there any way you think that maybe those programs can be improved to bring them more in line with what the expectation of a real internship is?
Right. Now, that's a very, very good question. First and foremost, there's so many things, and we can talk about this whole night, but I'll be very brief but rapid. So do you understand? Firstly, the culture. In St. Vincent, when you get an internship, okay, you're dealing with Vincentian. You know the culture. You know everybody. You speak the same language, etc., etc. You eat the same food. When you come to the United Nations, it's a different story altogether. My interns came from all over the world, including from the Caribbean, okay? People with different cultures, different language, and so on. So that's the first thing. Secondly, in St. Vincent, for example, the government, that is a program geared to you personally, you understand? Or you as young Vincentian, the government invests this. Now, we are geared for the whole world. It doesn't matter to us whether you're Vincentian or not, save and except where we have the special internship, as the young lady Dia mentioned, okay? So that's the second thing. This is not a gate for you. Nobody is going to give you a blight, okay? Thirdly, because of what I said about the culture, when you come as an intern at the international level, remember this, come prepared to deal with people. If you're good at what you do, if you're an engineer, civil engineer, whatever, and you're good at what you do, you learned it well at school, okay? In an internship, you're dealing with people. And if you're good at what you learned, you will never have any difficult work per se, but you're going to meet difficult people. You have to learn to deal with that as an intern. And we from St. Vincent, we from these smaller islands, 110,000 people. You understand what I'm saying? You come out here and you meet a vast world of different culture, of different people. You have to learn to deal with that. Fifthly, in relation to this, they mentioned it as well, the issue of finances. The UN generally don't pay you for an internship. If you have to come from St. Vincent to Geneva or to Bonn, where I worked, you understand, this airfare, etc., etc. So what you have to do is not just to have the money to come there, but enough finances to make you complete the course. You understand what I'm saying? In my office, you never got an internship for less than 3 months. Never. I don't give an internship for less than 3 months. So you have to come prepared to want to complete this thing. In our country, okay, it's a van, you pay $2 or whatever. The government gives you a stipend, etc., etc. You are supported, but your family is around you as well, Sian. You understand? Your daddy Sian, your Uncle Richard. You understand what I'm saying? You could pass by Uncle Richie, well, things tight. Okay, hold 100, hold a 200. You understand what I'm saying? Take care of yourself, my daughter. Take care of yourself, my son. In that situation, that is not the case. Okay, so it is fundamentally different. Outside of that, the people who you do your internship with in a place like St. Vincent, because the country is so small and so on, generally speaking, you would know something about them. You have met them before, you know something about their family, or you know their father, or they might even be your cousin. You understand what I'm saying? And therefore, there is a space and an area where you can have a rapport with them, okay? Even before you begin the internship. This is not the case at the international level. Finally, I could say a lot more things, but finally, the most important thing here is this, that you have to understand you have come here to make a transition, okay? And that transition depends first and foremost, not so much on your mentor and so on and so on. It also depends on you. You understand? The great Socrates once said, you only die when you stop learning, okay? And so therefore, when you come to an internship at the international level, understand this fundamental thing. This is a very, very fundamental thing. A lot of what you do in St. Vincent, you know it. You know how to get the bus, you know the people you're talking to, etc. But this is a new world, and you have to be prepared to learn, because probably 80%, you know, of what is going to happen to you now at the international level are things you have never experienced before. And if you're not strong enough, you're not mentally prepared for this, you're going to have problems.
Richard, we have to leave it there. We've gone over time, but thank you so much for being a part of tonight's program. Thank you so much for arranging Maria for the program. As always, you're a friend of the show. You are one of us. You're a family, and so I thank you for your input. So yes, thank you very much, buddy.
It was my pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, take care, man. All right. And that was Richard Byron Cox. As you know, hey, we've gone over time. It's been a really good program. The matter that we were discussing is one that required us to really get into it and so on. So I hope you enjoyed the subject matter. Until next week, Thursday night, when we're back with you with another program. Thank you so much for staying up late with us.